All right, what's up, Fantasy Football Squad? The Ryan and Jacob Show is back. We took a little break there, but we are back again to recap last week's exciting Week 5. Still don't have the Pure Leaf sponsorship, but we're not giving up. So, Pure Leaf. But anyway, so here we are on Week 5. Rough week for the Toads. We'll start on my game, and we won't spend too much time on it. The Toads are hurting right now. We've fallen to a really dark place, and got embarrassed by the team I've been talking a lot of trash about, Lubasi's team here. Although I will say that we have not had a podcast since his team started doing well. So I hadn't had a chance to give him kudos, but nonetheless, he destroyed me, and I was pretty sad about it.
You think you would have actually given him kudos, though, honestly?
I would have definitely said something about his nice score that he had the other week. I mean, he put up 120-something. So I definitely think I wouldn't have talked trash about that score. I mean, his team did well. I probably would have called it a fluke. I may have said that. I could see myself saying that. And then I would have eaten those words this week nonetheless. So a good week by Lubasi. I mean, his team went off, but it didn't really have to because my team didn't even show up. So
yeah, Lubasi got Will Fuller, Deshaun Watson, had a nice little connection in the end zone there. I think everybody on his team got a touchdown except Jefferson and then Cardinals D, of course. But yeah, everyone showed out for his team, and that kind of bodes well for me next week because I play Lubasi. Hopefully, they all don't get touchdowns next week, but that's kind of for another podcast. But yeah, great game by Lubasi. He was talking shit all Sunday to Ryan and Ryan's team. I mean, some bad starts from Ryan. You can see Daniel Jones, probably one of the worst starts in fantasy history, with an eight pointer there. There were so many better quarterbacks on the waiver wire that he could have picked up, like Derek Carr,
playing the worst defense in football, playing the worst defense. So I mean, 2 + 2 = 4. Sometimes it just makes sense to do things, and it just sometimes doesn't pan out, you know.
So awful decision by the GM of the Toads. So it really was his team more than the executive decisions, but Ryan did have a bad week, and kudos to Lubasi for blowing him out, and we'll see what Lubasi does next week.
Well, I just want to note that I do have the all-star Ironman champion down here battling COVID and just kicking its ass right now. So when he gets back, I mean, he's going to be hungrier than ever he's starting the Cam Newton revenge tour. So I won't lose again. We'll see. Anyway, we're going to get into the next game here. Team Jimmy versus Team James. The only person I would have had a close game with here, Team James.
Total loss.
Yeah, well, that's embarrassing. But Jimmy just continues his impressive run. He's been on a tear. He's 4-1. His team certainly turned it around from last year. I'm happy to see him doing well. Derrick Henry went absolutely nuts. Really, everyone on his team. DJ Moore finally showed up, and Rodrigo Blankenship may be the biggest sleeper kicker pick of the season. That guy has a boot.
Yeah, the Colts offense is just so stagnant with Phillip Rivers. It just doesn't seem like they get in the end zone. I mean, Colts games are always on in this area, so I always watch the Colts game, and they always kick field goals. And that guy hasn't missed, I don't think, or maybe he's missed one. He's been just killing the game. But one big key thing for Jimmy's team is Dak broke his ankle. It was a really horrific injury. I was watching that whole game, and
it's really, really gross. Yeah.
Oh, it was so gross. You could just see the shoe going. I don't even want to explain it because I just get shivers. But yeah, hopefully a speedy recovery for Dak and that Cowboys. He's really going to be missed on that Cowboys offense and on Jimmy's team. But I mean, going to James's team, he actually dropped Claypool, who put up 39 for Russell Gage, who put up 2.6. Luckily for James, he did pick Claypool back up. I don't know who he dropped, but he did pick up
You dropped
Claypool.
Gage.
Did
Dropped
he
Gage
drop
for him.
Gage? So
Yeah.
he dropped Gage. So he's got Claypool back. With Claypool, he would have won the game. So
Yeah.
interesting decision by
Easily.
Jim. But that sometimes happens. He didn't have Aaron Jones, and he didn't have Nick Chubb, and he didn't play A.J. Brown, but A.J. Brown actually played. I think that was his first game back. So right there, his first
Did
three picks.
17.
Yeah, his first three picks just did not play, either on the bench or injured or on a bye. But A.J. Brown, like I said, first game back, it's always iffy for I think he had a high ankle sprain or something wrong with his leg. So it's always iffy. One route could just twist an ankle or re-injure that leg. So it's always tricky to play those guys unless it's like a Michael Thomas or something like that. So I'm sure A.J. Brown will be in his lineup next year or next week with Claypool. If they're both not, there's probably something wrong. But yeah, so James, I mean, I'm sorry to say this to you, James, but I think you have one of the worst teams in the league. Hopefully you can turn it around. 1-4 in the division. I think you're tied with somebody else. No, I think you're the only 1-4 team actually.
No, I think there's two. I think there's
Oh,
two tied in your division at 1-4.
oh, okay. So, I mean, it's not that James did bad drafting. I really liked his team preseason. It's just injuries and things like that just
And Aaron
haven't
Jones was
been
on a
kind to him.
bye. So
Yeah,
Aaron
so it
Jones
just
will be
hasn't been
back.
kind to him. Drew Brees hasn't really looked great this year. 21's pretty respectful and pretty good, but he's had some down games this year. So hopefully James' teams can pick it up. I hope he goes on a tear because I've already played James. So I really, if he wins out the rest of the year, I really wouldn't care.
Right.
More kudos to you.
Yeah. Well, me and James both struggling a little bit and looking to turn it around. So here we go into a bit of a surprise victory here. Team Rudy over Team Chewy. I don't know how many people saw this coming except for me because I did pick Rudy in the mini game. So I went 5 for 5 this week actually. But a little bit of a surprise here, kind of an underdog win. What'd you think?
Yeah, Ravens D really showed out. Got a touchdown, and Joe Burrow didn't know how to throw a football on that Sunday. So great Ravens D. 25 is a really good score for a defense. And just other people just played their games. Goff did well, but everyone else, Robert Woods got a pretty good long touchdown, but he really didn't need that much more points except for that defense. I feel like if you get a defensive score for 25 and you lose, something's really wrong with your team because if everyone else just a little bit under their projections, you still should really have a really high scoring team or game.
Yeah. That was just an absolute insane score. And I think they were pretty close to shutting them out. I think the Bengals were lucky to get that field goal. But, yeah 25 by defense is pretty nuts. And Juju only got a 4.8 because Claypool was just eating all those touchdowns. So just a bad game flow for Juju there. And Higbee didn't have a very good week. Chewy still got a pretty good team here. Melvin Gordon on a bye last week too. So
yeah, and I don't know if this is official. I think it is official, but I think Le'Veon Bell is now a Chief. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire could see a drop in production. I don't think he's been doing that great the last couple of weeks anyway, for a first-round pick, that is. But that could eat some of Clyde's carries. So if I were Chewy, I'd be a little bit nervous about that.
yeah, that was just official today. I'm surprised that he chose to go to the Chiefs. They kind of already have somewhat of an established backfield, but he's probably thinking he's going to get a ring if he goes there.
Yeah.
And he very well might. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to Clyde here. He's kind of, like you said, he hasn't been doing super great. He had that really good week one. I don't think he's put up. I don't think he's put up a higher score than that since. Now he had a 15 in there, but no, nothing higher than that first week. So, yeah, that'll be a situation to keep some eyes on, see how that unfolds. And Josh Allen, I'm sure he'll bounce back, but he looked pretty rough.
He still got a 16 though. That's not bad for having as bad as a game as he did.
Yeah,
16's not too bad.
He looked pretty bad. All right, let's get into your matchup here, where you take a pretty close loss. Your team almost fought back from behind here, but you just couldn't quite climb out of that last bit of the hole that DK Metcalf dug.
Yep.
And unfortunately drops you to 2-3. What'd you think of your
Yeah,
game?
I've gotten just messed up with these close games. I lost to Jimmy by less than a point or maybe a point. Johnny was a touchdown score game, and I don't know how bad. I think I lost to Chewy pretty bad, but it was pretty close till the end. But all my 3 losses have just come pretty close, and it's just aggravating. But I think the most aggravating part was Josh Jacobs' 2 touchdown game, because his last touchdown, they got an interception and almost scored off of it, but got to the 1 yard line, and then
Yep.
Josh Jacobs just muscled it in. And that was the game right there. 6 points. I lost by less than 6 points. So just one less touchdown from DK, from Josh Jacobs. Hunter Henry had a touchdown in that game, which was just BS, I thought. So, I mean, my team showed out. I'm scoring my points. I'm going to start winning games. I think I'm going to start winning against Lubasi, because Lubasi's had 2 really good weeks. I just don't see another third week, or at least I'm hoping for not another third week like that. But really, that won Johnny the game. But what lost me the game is Amari Cooper. I don't think he played the second quarter. I honestly don't think he played the second quarter or the third quarter. He got 1 target in the first quarter, so he was at least in 1 snap. But the fourth quarter, he got like three catches for 22 yards or whatever the hell he got. And one of those catches was for like -6 yards. So I actually lost 0.1 point on that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I could do. It was a good game by Johnny. I think I was talking to Lubasi, and Johnny thought he had the game, like when DK got his 24, and I made it a game. It just, DK did his thing.
It was close. If Kamara could have got in the end zone again,
Yeah.
that would have
And
been.
Drake got a 1 yard gain touchdown, which he still hasn't done great, but at least he got in the end zone. And then, yeah, so I don't know. I mean, Brandon Cooks with the 26, he came to life. I'm glad to see that. And then Freeman came to life a little bit against that Cowboys defense. So I got some bench people. I know Madison's going to be starting instead of Cook, so I'll have him start this week, but that's another podcast. But yeah, good win by Johnny. Congrats to Johnny. He's 2-3. We're 2-3. I mean, that division. We'll look at the standings, but that division is very close. Hopefully, Jimmy, whoever he plays next week or this week, loses. But it's a very tight knit division, so I'm not too mad at my loss.
Yeah. Johnny definitely had a good week here. So did you. But Kyler Murray continues to ball out. I think a lot of people saw that coming. I remember you telling me in the preseason you didn't believe the hype, but look at that. What do you think now?
I didn't believe the hype that he's going to be a Lamar Jackson of last year.
I mean, he's pretty much killing.
He's not doing as good as
Do we
Lamar
need to take
Jackson
it to the
did.
numbers? Okay, maybe not quite as good, but I mean, look at the consistency here. Hasn't had a single game under 20 points. That's pretty good.
Yeah, Lamar did that all of the year last
Oh my
year.
God! So
If
now
he keeps
every
doing it.
quarterback comparison is going to be Lamar.
No, they were comparing him to Lamar, like, oh, he's going to break out like Lamar and stuff. Like, nobody believed that Lamar was going to do that last year except me.
Oh my!
That's why I drafted him in the 10th round.
You didn't know he was going to do what he did.
He did. I think Johnny did Kyler in like the 5th or 6th round. I got Lamar last year in the 10th. I was the only one who believed the hype. That's why it won me the league. Speaking of Lamar Jackson, we got Chris and Matt's matchup. And Lamar Jackson this year is a total bust. The complete opposite of what he did last year, at least so far. It's only 5 or 6 weeks or whatever the Ravens have played.
Now that I kind of saw coming.
Yeah, 13.5. I knew he was going to do a down tick, but 13.5 is a really bad score for Lamar Jackson. I think last year's his lowest score all year was like a 19 or 18. And just looking at his
he's been
stats.
I mean, 14, 17.
Yeah.
He's got more games under 20 than over.
Yeah, and then I think he was like, what was he, the second round, third round pick, kind of towards the end, I think, of the second round, early third round maybe. And I mean, Chris is probably pulling out his hair. I mean, I would be with spending a pick like that on him so far. But I think hopefully he bounces back for a lot of people's sake because, Mark Andrews does better. Marquise Brown does better. Everyone, he makes people better. It's just he hasn't been balling out.
Yeah, and congrats to Matt on a win here. I know Matt's team's been struggling, so it was good to see that he could pull out a dub. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying on Lamar. If I was Chris, I'd be pretty frustrated. But I think we all knew he was gonna decrease in his production this year. I just don't think we saw it was gonna be this much.
Yeah, and I think Chris picked Lamar Jackson, and then right after that pick was Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes has been balling out. Like, he's been worth the second or third, I think it was an early third round pick that Matt has invested in Patrick Mahomes because he got a 40 ball, he got a 30 ball here. Like, he's been going out. He's been just doing great.
He's
So
been going out.
yeah, it's been
Has been
frustrating. I'm
going
sure
out.
because Chris could have had Mahomes. I don't know if he had like a discussion with himself when he was drafting, but sometimes that happens.
Yeah, and Matt even has a guy on his team that got released by his NFL team after this game, and he still pulls out the win. Le'Veon Bell, he's got a Kansas City Chief running back now, partnered up with Patrick Mahomes here. So it'll be a real interesting piece here to see if Matt hangs on to that or tries to pull a trade.
Yeah, and just looking at Matt's team, I know last week Le'Veon was on a different team, but he's got two Kansas City players, two Chargers players, and then two Saints players on the bottom. I think he dropped the Saints defense, but that's kind of just funny to see that he has so many people on the same team. Because I hate when I have this like the same people on the same team or the different people on the same team, just because less touches that one other person could get. I like to kind of spread my people out if I could.
Yeah, I actually did notice that, but that is funny to see. And yeah, just a tough loss here for Chris. He did get Raheem Mostert back. I did want to say something about that. I know Chris has been dealing with some injuries this season, so it was nice to see that he got Mostert back. Mike Davis had another great week. That's been a good waiver wire pickup. I'm not sure if there's been any news about when Christian's coming back, but I
I'm
think
not
he was
sure.
really slated to be out for like 6 weeks. So Mike Davis got maybe a couple more games to pump out some good numbers for Chris, and hopefully he can get a couple dubs, and hopefully Lamar can turn it around.
That's what he's hoping for.
All right, let's get into the last game. We got still our, I think, only undefeated team in the league. Team Bear Down, Joey versus Dom. Joey pulls out another impressive win, drops a 131, super respectable score. Russell Wilson continues to be pretty solid. Todd Gurley had an amazing week. Thielen had an amazing week. I mean, his team just almost looks unstoppable right now. What do you think about
Yeah,
this matchup?
yeah. I mean, I feel like the MVP of the season so far in Russell Wilson. I think he proved that with that last game-winning drive against Minnesota so far this year. I know Aaron Rodgers has had a great year, but I think I'm going with Russell Wilson if I had to pick right now. Dalvin Cook's injured this week, so he'll not have Dalvin on his team for next week. I don't know who he plays, but whoever he plays is probably happy about that. But yeah, great win by Joey. I think this would have been the game of the week. I think these are two heavyweights in the league, and Dom just kind of fell short. I mean, Matt Ryan has looked really bad that game. That whole Falcons team just
Can we
has
just
looked pretty
point out the
bad.
fact that Daniel Jones scored more points than Matt Ryan?
Yes, but Matt Ryan has had some success this year, I'm sure, more so than Daniel Jones. I can tell you that. But great production from Chris Carson. I don't think he's had a game without a touchdown. So that was a great pick in like the third or fourth round whenever he got him.
He's had, yeah, one game.
Yeah, one game without a touchdown versus Dallas, and I think he got hurt that game. That's when that guy kind of
Oh, yeah, that's when he
twisted
got
his
his
leg.
ankle rolled, yeah, or his
Yeah,
knee.
so I don't. So he didn't play that full game. So maybe if he did play that full game, he'd have a touchdown. But I mean, respectful score from Dom. He got over the century mark. 10, 20 more, 10, 15 points more for Matt Ryan that you expected for your quarterback would have got him a better score. But it's a great game. Joey just has a ridiculous team, and whoever plays him next week needs to beat him without Cook. So
Yeah, this would be the time to do it, and
yeah.
we will certainly highlight that matchup in our look ahead episode. Before we sign off here, let's take a quick look at the standings. So yeah, Chris and James are at the bottom of your division, tied at the 1 and 4.
Okay.
Lubasi's trying to creep up there and make some noise, sitting in the middle of the division with you and Johnny, tied at 2 and 3, and then Jimmy sitting atop the division at 4 and 1. Then over here, of course, I got in the division with the 5 and 0 team, and got 3 and 2 teams, and then me and Matt rounding out the bottom at 2 and 3. Really need to turn it around here.
Yeah, and I was talking to Lubasi a couple days ago, and we highlighted, and this will be talked about next on the next podcast, but Chris actually plays Jimmy, and I think it's a playoff game for Chris next week, because if you go down 1 and 5, and then our division leader's 5 and 1, I don't think there's too much coming back from that. So I feel like that's a pretty big playoff game for Chris next week against Jimmy. And I hope Chris wins because I need Jimmy to lose. And then I don't know who plays Joey. Again, we'll talk about this later. But whoever plays Joey needs to win because we need to knock some of these big boys out of the or get them into the L column more.
We're starting to get into that point of the season where we got to be careful about losing and see who's winning. And it's getting tight. I can tell you what, over here in Old Town, we are getting a little bit nervous.
And that's more on the executive decisions that you made so far, probably.
You didn't say that about anyone else's team that made a bad call. Like you said, oh, their team fell short, this and that. No,
I did make. I made fun of James for Claypool.
Made bad decisions.
I made fun of James for Claypool, just like I made fun of you for Daniel Jones. So
well, Daniel Jones put up more points than Matt Ryan, so.
Yeah, but Matt Ryan's proved that he could do something. Daniel Jones hasn't proved shit.
Yeah, well, he proved that he's never going to be starting on my team again. I'll tell you that. All right, guys. Well, I think that does it for this podcast. We'll try not to take any more weeks off, unless you guys want us to take some more. But that does it for the Week 5 recap, and we will catch you again for the Week 6 look ahead here in a couple days.
Peace.